Barley Village, deep in the Hertfordshire countryside, has a population of only 650 people. And it's hard to imagine that this sleepy village could be a dangerous place for child pedestrians. But in 2007, on Hertfordshire roads, 52 11 to 12-year-old pedestrians and cyclists were seriously injured or killed. Local primary, Barley First, is situated right next to one of the busiest roads in the county. For a lot of the parents, the daily walk to and from school is full of potential hazards.
Because of the route we do take, we're not very far from the school, but there is a nasty crossing. This is the worst bit, really. Big lorry coming down the road now.
It's a very rural area, although it is what we call a wrap run through from the villages through to the A10. And so although there's a 30-mile-an-hour limit in the village, you do tend to get people speeding through the village.
It's very, very tricky coming the other way because we have to look back behind ourselves, and their signposts are quite difficult to see past as well. I think it's a lot clearer for the children probably in a town. I think pavements are wider and you're channelled towards crossings, whether it be zebra crossings or pelican crossings, and obviously we don't have those sorts of things in the village.
Being surrounded by such lovely countryside, a lot of the parents value their walks to school, but their way of life is being jeopardised by the increase in traffic and a number of near misses outside the school gate.
My own son, who I walked to school every day and I thought was quite good on the roads, just suddenly he just ran across the road on the way to school, Church End, outside on the corner by the pub. It's a particularly dangerous part, which is where we have to cross every day, and I always impress on him, but he just ran out, and he was lucky nothing was coming. And I think that it's certainly made me, that happening has made me more aware of the dangers.
The school realised with such difficult roads on their doorstep, parents needed encouragement to keep walking their children to school. So they enrolled parent volunteers to help deliver road safety training to the children.
And there were parents that had commented that they had to watch their children closely, and also that we'd noticed when they went out through the school gate that some of them were running off down the road, not waiting for their parents. Road safety, we decided, was an important factor for children. So we felt that by joining in with the partnership with parents, we could actually take on board training the children up to give them more confidence if they're outside on the road and knowing that they would be safe.
Have a good look, William.
Head teacher Julie Price believes that all 41 children at the school should take responsibility for their own safety on the roads.
And what do we need to think about?
We have to make sure there's no dangers in what we do.
We have to make sure there's no dangers. So what are our dangers?
So first the children did their own risk assessment.
Oh, we've got a disagreement. Some people say yes, cars are safe when they're standing still. Some people say that they're not safe when they're standing still. I have to agree with both, but why do I agree with both?
I'm a great believer in children being responsible for themselves. If there is anything happening in the school that has dangers that may be attached to it, then I feel that the children should be involved in identifying those dangers and actually working out what they can do to help get rid of those dangers.
What should they do?
Go back to their teacher.
Good girl, you mean step away from the curb, don't you, darling, and get back to
Therefore, the risk assessment takes place with just them thinking about what activity we're going to be doing and what associated dangers are there, and therefore they have ownership of it. And I think once you give children ownership of it, you can actually trust them to take on board what you've said.
After consultation with Hertfordshire Council, the school found out that there was some free road safety training available for them, and Chi Ming Lai, their local road safety officer, has come along to the school to help train the parents, teachers and children in road safety.
Come on then, Bailey. Should we cross that zebra crossing?
And at Barley First, they believe in starting them young, with children at reception age.
There are no cars. It's a very young age, but I think it's so important because children are surrounded by dangers around the road when they're walking to school and walking home, and they need to be aware to hold a grown-up's hand from a very young age, to be aware of a safe place to cross with a grown-up. This role play over here is just so they can act out situations that they might come across in real life.
What's happening here is absolutely brilliant. It shows the commitment of the school towards road safety, and basically it's starting them young. There's markings on the actual playground to show a road type setup. They've got some portable zebra crossing, they've got the portable vehicles, all that kind of thing. So through play, the children are learning about basic road safety and road manners. And hopefully by starting them this early, this takes them right the way through their childhood, and through hopefully them being good road users both as pedestrians and as drivers in the future.
A recent study by the Department of Transport looking at the cognitive abilities of children found that young children are particularly poor at identifying danger on the roads.
We know that children have difficulties in perceiving dangers in the road. Children tend to think about, for example, a large vehicle that's travelling very, very slowly to them seems like a bigger danger than a smaller vehicle travelling fast, when of course it's the other way around. And also children have a lower sense of peripheral vision, so they physically can't see as much as adults. We think that the only way that children can really learn these streetwise skills is just through practical examples and practical experience.
At Barley First, they've adapted their road safety training according to the age of the children.
The way it's delivered is important depending on the age. With the younger ones, you'd more focus on keeping safe and using an adult to support. You can put a bit more of the fear factor and fright on the older children so that they understand the consequences.
For the older children, it's essential that their pedestrian skills training takes place out on the road with real-life scenarios.
Okay, so can you see it's now gone down there, yeah? So do you think it's now safe to go? What do you think?
Road Safety Officer Chi helped to train the parent and teacher volunteers.
Volunteer training's essential. That's delivered by myself in order for the parents and volunteers, be they teaching assistants, police community support officers or governors, to actually know how to deliver the programme.
So, how do we check whether it's safe for us to cross these cars? Can anybody hear an engine noise?
No.
What if we were deaf and we could...
Well, he reminded us of what we should be doing to cross the road safely, so all the things that you really should know and forget over the years. We had to do lots of bending down and peering over cars, so how far can we see? Yeah, just making ourselves very aware of what it's like for a child. So that was brilliant.
If somebody was sitting in this car, would they be able to see us if they look in their mirror?
Yeah.
Would they be able to see it? Would you be able to see Freya? No.
The group I worked with, we started off in the car park looking at the lights on the vehicle and what they meant, things like the reversing lights, the indicators. I was quite surprised actually that a lot of the children really had no idea. And it was, I think, probably the first time some of them had actually sat and looked at the back of a car and thought about what the lights mean. So I thought that was a really useful exercise.
Now children, don't forget, it's not just the big cars like this. Look at this little one here. Everyone's got to learn how to use a safe crossing place. Everyone's got to learn how to use a junction and to be able to cross between park cars and understand the dangers of car parks. It's important to engage the parents, because ultimately this whole programme needs to be carried by parents. The parents are responsible for their own children and teaching road safety to their own children. They can't assume that it's the school's responsibility. They need to realise that they can turn a fun journey to the shops into a road safety exercise quite simply.
One of the most important parts of the training was to encourage independent thinking in the children.
Are you all looking and listening?
Yeah.
Don't just rely on me. Why shouldn't you do that?
Because the teacher could be wrong.
I could be wrong, so you all need to look and listen, make sure that we're doing it properly.
I think a lot of the children are completely reliant on their parents. They don't think about the road because they're holding somebody's hand usually, and the person says, wait, okay, we'll go over now. So actually getting the children to look for themselves, listen for themselves, also makes you aware that children aren't necessarily very good at doing that. It had never occurred to me that children might not know whether a vehicle's coming towards them or going away from them, and to actually have to point out the difference. And they did need that pointing out to them.
Safely on the other side. Where?
William, my dad.
By regaining their confidence on the roads, the children and parents will be able to hold on to one of the most treasured parts of their rural life, their daily walk to school.
Walking to school, we see all sorts of lovely things on the way. We see squirrels and apples on trees, and we stop and pick blackberries and things at this time of year. So it's a really great opportunity to interact with the children, for the children to find out about nature as well as what's going on the roads. So I wouldn't miss it for the world.
A recent report by Living Streets found that children who walked to school had a much better knowledge of their local community.
The report asked children in the schools to draw pictures of their route to school, including all the major landmarks in their neighbourhood, and then they talked about their experiences, who they met on the route, whether they knew the people's names, etc. And they had a much better sense of the local community, which I think was one of the really striking things that came out of the report. The children who walked to school had much better awareness of their local neighbourhood. They understood the spatial planning and the location of various shops and services. They had better social interactions with their friends, with their neighbours, and they were able to quite quickly pinpoint some of the environmental, the nature impacts of their environment as well. Those who were driven failed to see those things in their neighbourhood because obviously they were just being driven by.
Across Britain, almost 3/4 of children cycle for recreation. However, only 1 in 5 are allowed to cycle to school. At Barley First, they found out their parents would feel more reassured about their children cycling to school if they had some training.
Through the Walk to School initiative and getting more children walking to school rather than travelling by car, what we found has happened is more children are biking to school. So what we found is we need to move on, and we needed to introduce bikeability into the framework that we've got to make sure that the children were aware of how they should behave when they're on bikes.
Right, quick look at it. Very good.
From the couple of days of having the road safety, they really took it on board, and I think they learnt a lot from it.
Support, if you can, put your left hand on your helmet. If you can manage it.
There was definitely a noticeable difference. The thing that he remembered from the sessions most of all was the stop, look, listen, think. And he often says that to me now, which is great.
I think they've become more aware of what their children could do through it being pointed out to them what they should be doing with their children. I think that came over in the training actually. You saw a marked change in the way they saw their children out and how far they let them go away from them outside the school gate.
Because it is something that as adults we just take for granted, and we do need to put ourselves back into the child's view really.